The ship floated quietly in the dark space. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the eternal horizon and looked at the massive structure ahead. It was ancient, older than any human civilization. The metal walls were covered in strange symbols that glowed with a faint blue light. "What is that thing?" asked Lieutenant Bora from her station. Minho shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but it's been here for thousands of years, maybe longer." Dr. Hana pushed her glasses up and stared at her screen. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "It's a data archive. The design matches descriptions of progenitor technology, the ones who supposedly created life across the galaxy before they disappeared. The crew had heard stories about the progenitors, ancient beings who traveled between stars 50,000 years ago. They built worlds and shaped evolution itself. Then one day they vanished. Nobody knew why or where they went. Can you access it?" Minho asked. Hana nodded. "I think so. Give me a few hours." Those few hours turned into a full day. The archive's security systems were complex, but Hana was the best linguist in human space. She spoke 47 languages and could read ancient texts that others couldn't understand. Slowly, she broke through each layer of protection. When the archive finally opened, Hana gasped. "Captain, you need to see this." Minho walked over to her station. The screen showed lists of planets, thousands of them. Each one had coordinates, biological data, and notes written in the progenitor language. "It's a catalog," Hana explained. "Every world they visited, every species they studied. Look at this one." She pulled up an entry. Minho read the coordinates and his blood went cold. "That's Earth." "Yes," Hana said quietly. "But look at what they called it." The progenitor name for Earth was written in bold symbols. Hana translated it slowly. "Krazethis." It means the birth world of hunters, the cradle of apex predators, the forge of death. Silence filled the bridge. Nobody spoke for a long moment. "That can't be right," Minho said. "Earth is a garden world. We have oceans and forests. It's beautiful." "Keep reading," Hana whispered. The entry contained detailed notes. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating possible. Most inhabited planets in the galaxy were Class 1 or 2. Earth was off the scale. The notes warned about extreme biodiversity, high concentrations of predator species, and dangerous atmospheric conditions. But the most disturbing part was the final section. The progenitors had written warnings about the dominant species that would eventually evolve there. Humans. They described them as persistence hunters, pattern recognizers, social coordinators. Beings capable of adapting to any environment and overcoming any obstacle. "This is impossible," Bora said from across the bridge. "Humans are peaceful. We've been part of the Galactic Council for 150 years. We're diplomats and traders." Minho felt his hands shaking. He gripped the edge of the console. "We need to think about this carefully. If this information gets out, it could destroy everything we've built." Hana finished. "The other species trust us because they think we're harmless. But if they learn we come from a planet the progenitors marked as the most dangerous in the galaxy..." Minho made a decision. "Contact Ambassador Jiho on Earth. Secure channel only. We need guidance on how to handle this." The message took hours to reach Earth. When Jiho's face appeared on the screen, he looked worried. "Captain Minho, what's so urgent that you're using emergency protocols?" Minho explained everything. As he talked, Jiho's expression changed from curiosity to horror. "You need to bury this," Jiho said immediately. "Delete the files. Destroy the archive if you have to. If the Council learns about this, they'll turn against us. Everything I've spent 30 years building will collapse." "But it's the truth," Hana protested. "We can't hide from what we are." "The truth will get us locked in a cage," Jiho replied. "Or worse. Please, Captain, make this disappear." Minho looked at his crew. They all waited for his decision. Before he could speak, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. "Captain!" Bora shouted. "The archive is activating some kind of beacon. It's broadcasting across all frequencies. Can you shut it down?" Minho demanded. "No, it's automatic. A security protocol. It's sending out everything we accessed, including the Earth entry." Minho felt his stomach drop. On the screen, Ambassador Jiho's face went pale. "How far will it reach?" Minho asked. Bora checked her instruments. "It's powerful. Really powerful. Every ship within 50 light years will receive it. Every station. Every colony. Within a week, the whole galaxy will know. The decision had been made for them. There was no hiding anymore. The truth about Earth, about humanity, about what the progenitors had called them was spreading across the stars at the speed of light. Minho stood straight and took a deep breath. Then we face whatever comes next, together. But deep down, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. The news spread like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every nearby star system knew about the progenitor archive. Within days, it was the biggest story in galactic history. News channels across hundreds of worlds played the translation over and over. Earth, Chrysathus, the Forge of Death. Ambassador Jiho stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. The chamber was huge, with seats rising up in circles around the center floor. Representatives from hundreds of species watched him. Their eyes were different now. Not friendly anymore. They looked at him like he was dangerous. Counselor Thren spoke first. She was a Valasian, part of a peaceful hive mind species. Her voice was usually gentle. Not today. Ambassador Jiho, we welcomed your people. We shared our technology. We trusted you. Were you hiding what you really are? Jiho kept his voice calm even though his heart was racing. We didn't know. Nobody on Earth knew about this name or this classification. We thought we understood our own history. Apparently we were wrong. But the progenitors knew, another counselor said. They studied your world for thousands of years. They marked it as the most dangerous planet they ever found. And you expect us to believe this is just a surprise to you? It is the truth, Jiho replied. Earth may have been harsh in the past, but humanity has spent 200 years proving we can be better than our origins. We've been peaceful members of this council. We've helped negotiate treaties. We've saved lives. Elder Vorath stood up slowly. He was very old even for his long-lived species. He had studied the progenitors for 400 years. I must speak. The progenitors were never wrong about these things. They were careful and accurate. If they called Earth a death world, they had good reasons. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Some species demanded that humans be removed from the council. Others wanted human ships banned from their systems. A few called for Earth itself to be quarantined. Back on Earth, Colonel Deho watched the proceedings from the military command center. He was a veteran soldier with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had never fully trusted the soft diplomatic approach. They're afraid, he told the other officers in the room, and scared people make bad decisions. We need to prepare for the possibility that talking won't be enough anymore. President Soman disagreed. She was younger than Deho, but she had been elected because people believed in her vision of peace. If we start building weapons now, we prove their fears are correct. We need to show them we're not monsters. We need more diplomacy, not less. With respect, Madam President, Deho said. Diplomacy only works when both sides want peace. Right now they want us gone. Across the galaxy, reactions varied wildly. On the garden world of Valasia, crowds gathered outside the human embassy. They chanted for all humans to leave. Some threw rocks at the windows. Human businesses were vandalized. Human diplomats needed armed escorts just to walk the streets. But not everyone was afraid. On the industrial world of Braxis, some people were fascinated. Black market dealers started offering money for human DNA samples. They wanted to study what made humans so special. Some even wanted to hire human mercenaries. The crew of the Eternal Horizon received hundreds of messages. Most were angry. Some were death threats. You should have left it buried, one message said. You've doomed us all, said another. Dr. Hana sat in her quarters and read through them all. She felt guilty. If she hadn't opened the archive, none of this would have happened. But another part of her knew the truth would have come out eventually. The progenitors had designed that beacon to make sure of it. Elder Vorath continued his research. He dug deeper into the progenitor records. What he found made him very worried. The progenitors hadn't just marked Earth as dangerous. They had specifically chosen not to interfere with it. While they helped guide evolution on hundreds of other worlds, Earth was labeled as observation only. That was unprecedented. The progenitors always tried to help life develop peacefully, but with Earth they watched from a distance and never intervened. Why? What did they see? What were they waiting for? The Galactic Council called for a vote. Should humanity be placed under protective observation? Should human ships be restricted to certain routes? Should human military forces be limited? The debate lasted for hours. Some species argued that judging humans by their planet's past was wrong. We should judge them by their actions, not their origins, a young counselor from the Dracon Empire said. His name was Kelrus, and he had always respected human determination, but most counselors wanted restrictions. Better safe than sorry, they said. We need to be careful. Just before the vote, an emergency signal came through. A colony was under attack. A human colony. The world was called Haven's End, home to 50,000 human civilians. The attackers were the Threxian Swarm, a hostile insect species that raided frontier worlds. The colony has only basic defenses, the distress call said. We need help, please, we have children here. The nearest Council military fleet was 6 days away, but there was a human destroyer closer. The Resolute Dawn was only 18 hours from Haven's End. The Council hesitated. Should they let humans respond with military force? Given the current fear and suspicion, it seemed risky. What if humans showed their true nature? Ambassador Jiho stood up. His voice was steady but hard. Those are our people dying. If this council wants to debate politics while humans burn, that's your choice. But I'm authorizing the Resolute Dawn to respond. Right now. Colonel Deho had already given the order. He didn't wait for permission. Those are our people, he told President Soman. I won't let them die while the council argues. Soman wanted to stop him. But she couldn't. Not when human lives were at stake. If this goes wrong, she said quietly, it could mean war with the entire galaxy. Deho nodded. I know, but some things are worth the risk. The Resolute Dawn changed course. Commander Yunji, the ship's captain, prepared her crew for battle. The galaxy was watching. Whatever happened next would define how every species saw humanity. Forever. The Resolute Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Haven's End system. Commander Yunji looked at the tactical display and her jaw tightened. 20 Threxian bioships swarmed around the colony like hungry insects. The colony's shields were flickering. They wouldn't last much longer. All hands to battle stations, Yunji ordered. Her voice was calm. She had trained for this her whole life. Weapons hot. Shields to maximum. Commander, said her tactical officer, we're outnumbered 20-1. Standard protocol says we should wait for backup. Yunji looked at the colony. She could see the settlements below. Homes, schools, hospitals. Those people don't have time for backup. We go in now. Every major news network in the galaxy had picked up the signal. They broadcast live footage of what happened next. Billions of aliens watched as the single human destroyer charged toward 20 enemy ships. The Threxian swarm noticed the new arrival. Their hive mind calculated the odds. 1 ship against 20. They didn't change their attack pattern. They didn't need to, but they had never fought humans before. The Resolute Dawn didn't approach in a straight line like most species would. Instead, it zigzagged wildly, changing speed and direction every few seconds. The Threxian ships tried to predict its path and failed. Their weapons fired at empty space. Yunji's ship dove under 3 bioships and fired upward, damaging their undersides where the armor was weakest. Before the swarm could respond, the Resolute Dawn was already somewhere else, hitting them from a different angle. Then Yunji did something that shocked the watching galaxy. She started broadcasting human music and war cries directly at the Threxian hive mind. Heavy metal music, battle songs, screams of challenge. The noise confused the swarm's coordination. They had never experienced psychological warfare before. Target their communications nodes, Yunji ordered. Separate them from the hive mind. Human weapons tore into the Threxian ships with precision. Yunji wasn't trying to destroy them all. She was trying to break their unity. She isolated individual ships, cutting them off from the group. Alone, the Threxian bioships became confused and vulnerable. The galaxy watched in amazement. Human tactics were completely different from standard military doctrine. Most species fought in organized formations with calculated exchanges of fire. Humans fought like predators cornering prey. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and relentless. 3 hours into the battle, something unprecedented happened. The Threxian swarm retreated. They had never retreated before, ever. In 200 years of raiding frontier worlds, they had always fought until victory or death. But now they fled from a single human ship. Yunji didn't pursue them. She positioned her ship between the colony and the escape route, making it clear she would fight again if they returned. The Threxians didn't return. The colony was saved. But the cost was enormous. Not in human lives, but in galactic perception. Military analysts across hundreds of worlds reviewed the battle footage. What they saw disturbed them deeply. The human crew showed no hesitation in combat. No fear, no doubt. They shifted into battle mode instantly, like predators catching a scent. Human tactical thinking operated on multiple levels at once. They made split-second decisions while executing long-term strategies. They predicted enemy movements without computers, using pure instinct and pattern recognition. But the most disturbing thing was the intercepted communications from the resolute Dawn. The crew was making jokes during the battle, laughing, showing excitement. For them, combat wasn't trauma. It was natural. Counselor Thren spoke on behalf of many species. We thought the Death World classification was ancient history. We thought modern humans had evolved beyond their origins, but we were wrong. Krasithis isn't where they're from. It's what they are. On Earth, reactions were mixed. Some people celebrated Commander Unji as a hero. She saved 50,000 lives. Others worried about what the battle revealed. Colonel Deho was pleased. Finally, they see what we're capable of, he said. President Somin was less happy. They don't see capability. They see danger. We just confirmed every fear they had. But Ambassador Kelris of the Draken Empire had a different view. The Draken were warriors themselves. They valued strength and courage. The humans didn't ask permission, Kelris said. They saw their people in danger and they acted. That's not something to fear. That's something to respect. The Drakon Empire proposed an alliance with Earth, but this only made other species more nervous. If the galaxy's most militaristic civilization wanted to partner with humans, what did that mean for everyone else? Dr. Hana continued studying the progenitor files aboard the Eternal Horizon. She found more entries about Earth's evolution. The progenitors had documented specific human traits. Persistence hunting, where humans chased prey for days until it collapsed. Pattern recognition that let humans predict behavior. Social coordination for complex group strategies. Adaptability that let humans survive anywhere. These weren't weaknesses. They were specifications. The progenitors hadn't been studying a species. They had been documenting a weapon. The Galactic Council reconvened for the vote. The mood was tense. Everyone had seen the battle. Everyone understood what humans could do now. The vote was clear. Humanity would be placed under protective observation. Human ships would be restricted to designated trade routes. Human military forces would be capped at current levels. Earth would be monitored by Council peacekeepers. Ambassador Jiho stood and addressed the chamber. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. We will comply with the Council's decision. But we do so under protest. We have been loyal members of this civilization. We have broken no laws. We harmed no one who didn't threaten us first. If the galaxy chooses to imprison us for the crime of our origins, then this council stands for nothing. He walked out of the chamber. For the first time in 150 years, humanity's relationship with the galaxy was broken. They were alone again, feared, isolated, caged, but they were also watching, waiting. And if history had taught them anything, it was this. Predators were most dangerous when cornered. 3 months passed. Earth was now surrounded by Council peacekeeping ships that watched every vessel coming and going. Human trade had collapsed. Colonies felt abandoned. People on Earth were angry and scared. The restrictions were strangling them slowly. Dr. Hana refused to return home. She stayed aboard the Eternal Horizon, which floated near the progenitor archive under heavy Council supervision. She spent every waking hour studying the ancient files. Something about them didn't make sense. There were gaps in the data, sections that seemed deliberately hidden. Late one night she found it, a layer of encryption buried deep in the archive. Security protocols far more advanced than anything in the public files. It took her 3 weeks to break through. When she finally accessed the hidden data, her hands started shaking. She read the files 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Then she called Captain Minho. "You need to see this," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Minho came to her lab. The screen showed technical documents, genetic sequences, environmental modification plans. "What am I looking at?" "The truth," Hana said. "The progenitors didn't just observe Earth, they made it what it is. Every ice age, every mass extinction, every environmental pressure that made life difficult. They engineered all of it." Minho sat down heavily. "That's impossible. Look at the data." They modified Earth's orbit slightly. They adjusted atmospheric conditions. They even caused some extinction events, all of it designed to create maximum evolutionary pressure. Earth wasn't naturally a death world, they made it into one. On purpose, but why? Minho asked. Why would they do that? Hana pulled up another file. Because they were afraid. The file described something the progenitors called the Silence, an extragalactic threat. Energy signatures moving between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. Entire civilizations erased. Not destroyed with weapons, simply deleted from existence. The progenitors detected the Silence 50,000 years ago. Hana explained. They realized their civilization was vulnerable. They were logical, peaceful, cooperative, all good things, but useless against something that operated on pure predatory instinct. So they created a weapon, Minho said slowly. Us? Yes, they needed a species born from conflict, shaped by death, designed to survive impossible odds. They needed hunters who could think, adapt, and never give up. They turned Earth into a forge and let it run for 50,000 years, waiting for the right species to emerge. Minho felt sick. We're not a natural species. We're manufactured. Our evolution was natural, Hana corrected, but the environment that shaped us was artificial. The progenitors set the stage. We evolved to fit it. We need to tell the council, Minho said. This changes everything. Does it? Hana asked. Will they be less afraid knowing we're a deliberately engineered weapon? Or more afraid? Before they could decide, the choice was made for them. Again, a group of radical human activists hacked into the Eternal Horizon systems. They found Hana's research and broadcast it across every major network in the galaxy. The reaction was immediate. Some species were horrified. They're not just predators by accident. They're weapons by design. Others were skeptical. How convenient. Humans invent a story about an ancient threat just when we're restricting them. But Elder Vorath believed it. He had studied the progenitors longer than anyone. He called an emergency meeting with the council's leadership. I've seen similar patterns in recent astronomical data. Energy signatures at the galactic rim. We dismissed them as natural phenomena. But what if they're not natural? He showed them the data. Dark zones where stars should be. Silent sectors where transmissions simply stopped. The pattern was spreading inward toward populated space. It matches the progenitor warnings exactly, Vorath said. The silence is real. And it's here. As if to prove his point, an urgent message came through from an outer rim observation station. Then another. Then 5 more. All reporting the same thing. Star systems going dark. Not exploding. Not showing any signs of attack. Just disappearing from sensors. Counselor Thren looked at the reports with growing fear. How long until it reaches core systems? At current speed? Vorath calculated quickly. 6 months. Maybe less. The chamber fell silent. Every counselor understood what this meant. The progenitors had prepared for this moment. They created humanity as a defense mechanism, a species capable of fighting what others couldn't comprehend. We have a choice, Vorath said quietly. We can continue to fear the humans, or we can accept that we need them. Ambassador Kelrus of the Draken Empire stood. I've been saying this for months. The humans aren't our enemy. Fear is our enemy. We need to lift the restrictions. All of them. Now, Thren looked at the other counselors. She saw fear in their eyes, but also realization. He's right. We've wasted 3 months being afraid of the wrong threat. The vote was swift. All restrictions on humanity would be immediately lifted. More than that, Earth would be asked to take primary responsibility for coordinating the galaxy's defense. It was both a request and a burden. If humanity succeeded, the galaxy would survive. If they failed, humans would be blamed for extinction. Ambassador Jiho received the message on Earth. He read it carefully, then looked at President Soman and Colonel Deho. They're only asking because they're desperate, Deho said. The moment the threat is gone, they'll turn on us again. Maybe, Jiho replied. But right now they need us. And we have a choice. We can let them face this alone and prove we're as dangerous as they feared. Or we can help them and show them what humanity really means. President Soman made the decision. We help not because they deserve it, but because it's right. The message went back to the council. Earth accepted. Humanity would defend the galaxy, even the species that had tried to cage them, because that's what predators did when their territory was threatened. They fought. The silence moved closer. 3 more systems went dark in the next week. Evacuation ships fled in panic, but many disappeared before reaching safety. Whatever the silence was, it moved faster than anyone expected. Scientists worked desperately to understand it, but the phenomenon defied all known physics. Colonel Deho was named Supreme Commander of the Combined Defense Fleet. It was the largest military cooperation in galactic history. Ships from 47 different species, all working together for the first time. It should have been inspiring. Instead, it was chaos. Every species had different weapons, different tactics, different ways of thinking. The Draken liked direct assault. The Valasians used swarm coordination. The Kethrians preferred defensive formations. Getting them to work together was like trying to conduct an orchestra, where every musician played a different song. Commander Yunji became Daiho's second in command. Her job was to teach alien crews how to fight like humans. It wasn't easy. "You want us to lie to the enemy?" a Valasian captain asked during training. "That's dishonorable." "It's called a feint," Yunji explained patiently. "You make the enemy think you're doing one thing, then do something else. It's not about honor. It's about survival. My people fight with pride," a Draken officer said. "We face our enemies directly." "Pride won't matter if you're dead," Yunji replied. "I'm not asking you to become human. I'm asking you to learn how to be unpredictable. The silence operates on logic. We need to hit it with chaos." Slowly, the alien crews began to understand. They practiced irregular maneuvers, random timing, psychological warfare, things that made no sense mathematically but worked anyway. Meanwhile, Dr. Hana worked with Elder Vorath and scientists from across the galaxy. They established research stations at the edge of affected zones, using remote probes to gather data. What they discovered was terrifying. The silence appeared to target consciousness itself. Systems with more people disappeared first. Automated stations lasted longer. It was as if the phenomenon was drawn to intelligent life and fed on it. "It's hunting us," Hana said during a conference call with military leadership. Not randomly, deliberately. Captain Minho volunteered to lead a reconnaissance mission. He would take the Eternal Horizon to the edge of a silence zone and try to observe it directly. It was incredibly dangerous, but they needed information. "I'm coming with you," Hana insisted. "If there are any progenitor traces in there, I'm the only one who can recognize them." The ship entered the zone carefully. For hours, sensors showed nothing, just empty space where stars used to be. Then they saw them. Massive shapes moving in the darkness. Not ships exactly, more like living structures, vast and organic, pulsing with energy that bent space around them. "Are those the silence entities?" Minho whispered. "I think so," Hana replied. She was recording everything. "They're like nothing in any database. Not mechanical, not biological. Something else." Then the entities noticed them. They moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance in seconds. Minho ordered full retreat, but the entities followed. They were faster than any ship should be. "They're predicting our course," Hana said, studying the pursuit pattern. "They know where we're going before we get there. They're reading our navigation computer." Minho made a split-second decision. He shut down all automated systems and switched to manual control. Flying by instinct alone, he piloted the ship in ways no computer would predict. Left when logic said right, up when sense said down. Random choices based on feeling. The entities fell behind. They couldn't predict pure intuition. The Eternal Horizon escaped barely with crucial data. Back at Fleet Headquarters, Hana analyzed everything they'd recorded. Her conclusion was both hopeful and terrifying. "The silence operates on perfect logic," she explained to the gathered commanders. "Pure mathematics. Perfect efficiency. That makes them incredibly powerful, but it also makes them predictable to a species that doesn't follow logic." "You mean us," Deho said. "Yes. Humans make decisions that don't make mathematical sense but work anyway. We act on instinct, emotion, creativity, things the silence can't compute. That's why the progenitors made us this way." Elder Vorath nodded slowly. The progenitors understood. Perfect logic can be countered with better logic. But how do you counter something that refuses to follow logic at all? Ambassador Kelris smiled grimly. "You can't, that's the point. Humans are the glitch in the system. The error that makes perfect programs fail." The silence was now 5 systems away from the galactic core, home to trillions of lives. Evacuation was impossible at that scale. The only choice was to stop it. Deho assembled the fleet at a system called Threshold. It was a natural choke point. The silence would have to pass through it to reach populated space. 10,000 ships from 47 species waited there. Against them, estimates suggested 50,000 silence entities. The odds were terrible. But Deho had a plan. A crazy human plan. "We don't fight as one unified fleet," he told the assembled commanders. "We fight as chaos. I'm dividing us into 100 independent groups. Each one led by a human officer but crewed by all species. Each group gets broad objectives but no specific tactics. You improvise. You adapt. You be unpredictable." Many commanders protested. "That's not strategy. That's madness," Deho smiled. "Exactly. The silence expects strategy. We're going to give them madness." Dr. Hana added one more element. "We should broadcast everything human at them. Our history, our art, our music, all the contradictory, illogical, beautiful mess of our existence. It might overload their systems." So the fleet prepared. 10,000 ships, 100 commanders learning to think like humans, and a galaxy full of hope and fear, waiting to see if the weapon the progenitors forged would work. The silence was coming. And humanity was ready. The silence arrived at threshold in perfect formation. 50,000 entities moving as one, geometric and precise. They looked like a mathematical equation made physical. Beautiful and terrible. The combined defense fleet waited. 10,000 ships from 47 species all holding position. For a moment, the two forces simply observed each other across the empty space. Then Colonel Deho gave the order. "All units, execute chaos protocol. Show them what madness looks like." The fleet scattered, not in panic, not in retreat, but with no pattern at all. 100 groups moving in seemingly random directions. Some charged forward, some flew sideways, some drifted backward. There was no formation, no coordination visible to outside observers. The silence entities paused. For the first time in their existence, they encountered something they couldn't immediately predict. Their calculations showed the fleet should maintain defensive positions. But humans weren't following any standard tactics. Commander Yunji led her strike group directly at a cluster of entities. Just when collision seemed inevitable, her ships veered sharply away and fired not at the entities themselves, but at the space around them, creating massive sensor interference. Lieutenant Bora did the opposite. Her group completely powered down, drifting like debris. The silence entities ignored them as non-threats. Then suddenly every ship activated at once and struck from point-blank range before the entities could respond. A third group, led by a Draken captain who'd learned from Yunji, flew away from the battle entirely. The silence calculated they were retreating, but they looped around and attacked from behind, hitting the entity's weakest points. Meanwhile, the broadcast started. Human history streamed across all frequencies. War and peace, love and hate, mathematics and poetry, scientific proofs and abstract art, death metal music and children's lullabies. Everything contradictory about human existence all at once. The silence entities began making mistakes. They calculated optimal responses, but humans kept doing things that made no sense. Ships sacrificed themselves in ways that achieved no clear tactical advantage, but those sacrifices created emotional responses in other crews, which changed their behavior unpredictably. Dr. Hana watched from a command ship, analyzing the battle data in real time. The broadcasts were working. Silence entities exposed to human cultural data showed erratic behavior. They hesitated, made inefficient choices. Some even attacked each other when their logic pathways overloaded. But the silence was adapting. The entities began targeting human-led groups specifically. They recognized humans as the source of chaos and focused their attacks accordingly. The casualties mounted. Hana compared the silence's network patterns to the progenitor files. She realized something crucial. Captain Minho, the entities are networked. They share calculations instantly. If we could overload the entire network at once, we'd need to get to the center of their formation, Minho said. That's a suicide mission. I know, Hana replied quietly. Minho looked at his crew. They'd been through so much together. The discovery that changed everything. The fear and isolation. Now they had a chance to finish what the progenitors started. Set course for the center, he ordered. If this is what we were made for, let's do it right. Hana prepared the most potent weapon humanity had. The complete record of Earth's history, compressed into a viral data package. Every contradiction, every paradox, every beautiful, terrible, illogical moment of human existence. Designed to force the silence network to process it all simultaneously. The Eternal Horizon charged into the heart of the enemy formation. Other ships tried to follow, but Minho ordered them back. "This one's ours." They weaved through thousands of entities. The ship took heavy damage. Hull breaches, system failures, but they pressed forward. Minho piloted like he'd never piloted before, using every trick, every instinct, every unpredictable choice he could make. They reached the center where hundreds of entities converged. Hana released the payload. The effect was immediate and devastating. The silence network began to fracture. Entities froze, overwhelmed by data that defied their logic. Some shut down entirely. Others turned on each other, their decision-making corrupted beyond repair. But the Eternal Horizon was too deep in enemy territory. Entities closed in from all sides. There was no escape route. Then something unexpected happened. The rest of the fleet charged in. Not just human ships, everyone. Draken warriors threw themselves into battle with suicidal bravery. Phalasian swarms coordinated attacks with unprecedented precision. Even cautious species like the Kethrians fought with everything they had. They weren't following orders. They weren't executing a plan. They were acting on pure emotion, protecting comrades, refusing to let the humans sacrifice themselves alone. Ambassador Kelris led the charge, his Dracon warship cutting through enemy lines. "The humans taught us to be unpredictable. They taught us to be mad. So let's show these things what madness looks like." The combined fury of the galaxy's species, all fighting with human-style chaos, created an opening. The Eternal Horizon, damaged but intact, limped through it to safety. With their network compromised and their logic corrupted, the silence began to retreat. It wasn't defeat exactly, more like a system reboot. The entities fell back toward the galactic rim, withdrawing from all conquered space. The battle was won, but the cost was enormous. Thousands of ships destroyed. Tens of thousands of lives lost from every species. The survivors floated in the wreckage of Threshold, exhausted and traumatized, but they were alive. The galaxy was alive, and for the first time every species truly understood why the progenitors had created humanity. Colonel Deho broadcast to all surviving ships. His voice was tired but steady. "We did it, all of us. Together." On the bridge of the Eternal Horizon, Captain Minho looked at Dr. Hana. They were both injured, both exhausted, but they smiled. "The progenitors were right," Hana said. "They knew what we'd become, what we'd be capable of." "They were half right," Minho replied. "They made us dangerous, but we chose to use that danger to protect others. That part was all us." Throughout the fleet, representatives from different species looked at each other with new understanding. Fear had brought them together, but something else kept them together now. Respect. Trust earned through shared sacrifice. The galaxy would never be the same, neither would humanity's place in it. 1 year passed. The galaxy was slowly rebuilding. Star systems that the silence had consumed were being cautiously reclaimed. Nobody knew if the entities would return, but everyone agreed they needed to be ready if they did. At Threshold, where the great battle was fought, a memorial stood. It was massive, built from metal donated by all 47 species who fought together. At its center was a single word in the progenitor language, Krazethis. Beneath it, carved in the common galactic script, was a new inscription. The Forge of Death gave birth to the Defenders of Life. Ambassador Jiho stood at the memorial for the dedication ceremony. Representatives from every council species attended. The mood was different now. Not fearful, not suspicious. Something closer to respect. Elder Vorath spoke first. His voice carried across the assembled crowd. "We feared what we didn't understand. We judged humans by their origins rather than their choices. We were wrong. The progenitors gave humanity the tools to be dangerous, but humanity chose to use those tools to protect others. That choice matters more than any ancient classification." Counselor Thren stepped forward next. She had been one of humanity's harshest critics. Now she spoke differently. "My people were afraid. I was afraid. I apologize for that fear and what it led us to do. The restrictions, the isolation, the doubt. Humans proved their character not with words but with sacrifice. Thank you." Captain Minho watched from the crowd. He had retired from active service after the battle. The Eternal Horizon was too damaged to repair and had been decommissioned. But rather than scrapping it, the council voted to preserve it as a museum ship, a reminder of discovery and sacrifice. Minho now taught at the Interspecies Naval Academy on Earth. Young officers from dozens of species came to learn human tactics, not to replace their own methods but to supplement them, to think more flexibly, to embrace controlled chaos when necessary. Dr. Hana continued her research. She had established the Institute for Ancient Civilizations, a facility dedicated to studying the progenitors and preparing for future threats. Her work suggested the silence wasn't the only danger the progenitors had worried about. There were hints of other entities, other challenges waiting in the dark between galaxies. But she wasn't working alone anymore. Scientists from across the galaxy collaborated with her, sharing knowledge, building defenses together. Colonel Deho accepted the permanent position of Supreme Commander of the Combined Defense Fleet. The temporary alliance forged at Threshold became a lasting institution, the first truly united galactic military. He worked carefully to integrate human thinking without forcing other species to abandon their strengths. Draken warriors kept their honor and courage. Velasian swarms maintained their coordination. Kethrians preserved their patient strategies. But all of them learned to be unpredictable when needed. Ambassador Jiho was elected to the Council's inner circle. The first human ever to hold that position, he used his influence to build a more just galactic society, to ensure no species would be judged by fear again. Commander Yunji was promoted to Admiral. She commanded a multi-species fleet that patrolled the galactic rim, watching for signs of the Silence's return. Her flagship, a new vessel called Horizon's Legacy, was crewed by veterans from the Battle of Threshold. Humans, Dracon Velasians, Kethrians, and dozens of others who learned to trust each other in fire. Human culture began spreading through the galaxy in interesting ways. Alien universities offered courses on human psychology and strategic thinking. Human art and music became popular not because they were better, but because they were different. They showed ways of thinking others hadn't considered. Many young humans embraced the name Krazethis. What was once a source of shame became a badge of pride, a reminder that their species survived the harshest test the progenitors could create and came out stronger. President Somin addressed this in a speech that became famous across the galaxy. Our planet has two names now: Earth, the home we love, and Krazethis, the crucible that shaped us. Both names are true. We don't have to choose between being peaceful and being strong. We can be both. On Earth, Captain Minho stood with a group of his students. They were young officers from different worlds. A Dracon named Kethric, a Velasian named Thera, a human named Sora. They looked up at the stars together. Commander, Kethric asked, do you think we're really ready if the silence returns? Minho thought about the question. About everything they'd been through. The discovery, the fear, the war, the victory. Ready? Probably not. But that's okay. The progenitors didn't make us to be ready. They made us to adapt. When the threat comes, whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. He looked at the diverse group around him, species that a year ago barely knew each other, now learning side by side, training together, becoming friends. That's the real lesson, Minho continued. It's not about being the strongest or smartest. It's about being able to change when you need to work with people different from you, to face the unknown and keep moving forward. My people have a saying, Thera the Velasian said. Alone we are threads. Together we are fabric. Humans have one too, Sora added. United we stand. Divided we fall. Kethric smiled. The Drakons say true strength is knowing when to fight and when to trust. Minho nodded. All true. All important. The galaxy learned that the hard way. Far away in unexplored space, ancient progenitor probes continued their eternal watch. One of them detected quantum signatures from the Battle of Threshold. Its programming analyzed the data. Outcome successful. The weapon from Krazethis is activated. Phase 1 complete. The probe transmitted this information across vast distances to others of its kind. One by one, they received the signal. New protocols activated. Protocols designed not just to defend against the silence, but against threats the young species couldn't yet imagine. The progenitors' plan was bigger than anyone knew. Humanity's role in it had only just begun. But for now, in that moment standing under Earth's sky with students from across the stars, Captain Minho was content. The galaxy had learned to overcome fear with trust. Humanity had proven they were more than their origins. Whatever challenges waited in the darkness, they would face them together. not as separate species competing for survival, but as one civilization, diverse, united, ready. The Forge of Death had created defenders, but those defenders chose to become something more. Protectors, teachers, friends, and that choice, more than any ancient engineering or evolutionary pressure, defined what humanity truly was. The stars shone above them, full of mystery, full of danger, full of possibility, and for the first time in galactic history, every species looked at those stars with hope instead of fear, because they knew, whatever came next, they wouldn't face it alone.